Hi everybody, and welcome to your channel, Spanish Pills, the best YouTube channel to learn and speak Spanish. Hola a todos y a todas, valientes amantes del español, y bienvenidos a vuestro canal, Spanish Pills, el mejor canal de YouTube para aprender a hablar español. What are you gonna learn in this video? Well, I would like you to learn how to make promises in Spanish. I would also love that you could also keep them, but that's up to you. I'm just here to help you learn to speak Spanish. I'm just kidding. I'm sure all of you always keep your promises. Let's get to the point and stop rambling. In this video, you're gonna find not only many promises you can practice with, but also some new grammatical and vocabulary features. Like always, I'll translate every sentence into English so you can understand what you're saying in Spanish. And I will also compare every sentence in both languages, looking for similarities and differences. Remember that you can pause the video and repeat every sentence after me as many times as you need, so you can practice your pronunciation and improve your Spanish accent. And don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoy this video. So, ¿estás preparado o preparada para aprender español conmigo? Genial. 3, 2, 1, comenzamos. Okay, you're making a promise. In English, you're supposed to say, I promise. In Spanish, you are supposed to say, te lo prometo. You are using a few more words. But let's start by paying attention to the similarities between both versions. The first thing they have in common is the verb tense. In both versions, we're using the same verb tense, the present. The second thing they have in common is the subject. In both languages, we're using the same subject. I in English, yo in Spanish. But you don't have to use the word yo, the personal pronoun, because of the ending of the verb. Remember that the ending of the verb always tells us who the subject is in Spanish. Now, I would like to share with you a tip about when to use the personal pronoun yo in Spanish. If you're telling a story about something that you did or something that happened to you, and you are the subject, you are the protagonist of the story, try not to repeat the personal pronoun yo all the time because it sounds awful in Spanish. Even if you're doing it unintentionally, the way people will perceive you as the one who's telling the story is as if you were someone very arrogant, self-centered, even egocentric, or something like that. It's kind of rude to insist on saying yo all the time when telling a story, even when you are the protagonist, because we know that everything that happened in that story happened to you or you did it because of the ending of the verb. So don't put too much emphasis on the subject, especially if the subject is yo. Okay? Be careful with that. Now, why do we have to use the personal pronoun te at the beginning of the sentence? Because in Spanish, we are saying, I promise something to someone. And this te means you. I promise it to you. It would be lo in Spanish. Before moving on, I would like to pay attention to the personal pronouns as direct and indirect objects in Spanish. we have two boxes. On the left, the blue one, you have the personal pronouns as direct objects in Spanish. Yo, me, tú, te, él, le, ella, la, nosotros, nosotras, nos, vosotros, vosotras, os, ellos, ellas, les. And on the right, you have the orange one, where you have the personal pronouns as indirect objects in Spanish. Yo, me, tú, te, él, le, ella, le, nosotros, nosotras, nos, vosotros, vosotras, os, ellos, ellas, les. And now, before dealing with another sentence, let's make a short break and practice with a verb tense review of the present simple of the verb prometer in Spanish. Yo prometo, tú prometes, él, ella promete, nosotros, nosotras prometemos, vosotros, vosotras prometéis, ellos, ellas prometen. And now, the same sentence we've been working with, but with a different verb tense, using the past. In English, you would use the simple past. In Spanish, you would use the preterite. But everything else in the Spanish version is the same as in the previous sentence. Now, let's practice the verb tense review of the preterite of the verb prometer in Spanish. Yo prometí, tú prometiste, él, ella prometió, nosotros, nosotras prometimos, vosotros, vosotras prometisteis, ellos, ellas prometieron. Tercera promesa. This time we have the promise included in the sentence. Te prometo que te llamaré después. We have two sentences. Te prometo, te llamaré después. In Spanish, we need something to connect them. And that something is que. Te prometo que te llamaré después. But it's a word-by-word translation, at least the second part of the sentence. Te llamaré después. In both languages, we are using the future. Te, you, but the word order is different because in Spanish we put it before the verb and in English you put it after the verb. And then later could be translated as más tarde, but in real life Spanish we usually translate it as después, as if you were saying after. But in English you're supposed to say later. In Spanish you can say both, después or más tarde. Both are correct. And now let's practice the verb tense review of the verb llamar in the future in Spanish. Yo llamaré, tú llamarás, él, ella llamará, nosotros, nosotras llamaremos, vosotros, vosotras llamaréis, ellos, ellas llamarán. Now, the same sentence we've just worked with, but with a different verb tense. The first part of the sentence, in English, you're using the simple past. In Spanish, you're using the preterite. Then you have the second sentence. Remember to put que in between. And in English and in Spanish, we're in both languages using the conditional. I would call you, te llamaría. Once again, the personal pronoun goes before the verb in Spanish, after the verb in English. And the word today, that means hoy. And now let's practice the verb tense review of the conditional of the verb llamar in Spanish. Yo llamaría, tú llamarías, él, ella llamaría, nosotros, nosotras llamaríamos. Vosotros, vosotras llamaríais. Ellos, ellas llamarían. Les prometí a mis padres que cenaríamos con ellos esta noche. Let's start with the second sentence, or at least the second part of the sentence. Like in English, we're using the conditional because the promise is made in the past. To have dinner means cenar with them, con ellos, tonight, esta noche. No big deal. Now let's pay attention to the first part of the sentence because there are a few things that are different in the English version and in the Spanish version. The subject is the same, yo, even though we don't have to use it in Spanish because of the ending of the verb. In both languages, we're using the past. In English, the simple past. In Spanish, the preterite. Now, my parents. In Spanish, you have to use a preposition before my parents. A mis padres. And you have to include a personal pronoun that is les at the very beginning of the sentence. This les makes allusion to my parents, ellos. Remember the two boxes that we saw at the beginning of the video where we were dealing with the personal pronouns working as direct and indirect objects? Les would be the indirect object of the personal pronoun they, ellos in Spanish. That makes allusion to my parents. Why do we have to do this? Because there are some verbs in Spanish that follow these grammar rules, like the verb gustar or the verb encantar. There are just a few of them, but they're very important. It's not a big deal. I mean, it's not hard. It's not that hard as it might look at first sight. If this is the first time that you are dealing with this grammatical structure, you might be a bit shocked, but don't panic. It's all about practice, okay? Get familiar with this and it's a piece of cake. Pan comido. And now the conditional of the verb cenar in Spanish. Yo cenaría, tú cenarías, él, ella cenaría, nosotros, nosotras cenaríamos. Vosotros, vosotras cenaríais. Ellos, ellas cenarían. Le prometí a Rosa que me pasaría por su casa esta tarde. Let's start with the second part of the sentence. Like in English, we're using the conditional. The subject is the same, yo. But notice that the verb to stop by means pasarse por. Pasarse is a reflexive verb that needs a reflexive pronoun. So that's why we have to say me before the verb. Because the subject is yo. Su casa, her house, this afternoon, esta tarde. Now, about the first sentence, it is like in the previous example. When in Spanish you say who you are making the promise to, in this case, a Rosa, the first thing is that you have to use a preposition before naming the one you are making the promise to. The preposition is a, like in the previous example, you were making a promise, I was making a promise because the subject was yo, to my parents. I had to say a mis padres. In this case, I have to say a Rosa. Rosa, the personal pronoun would be she, ella, so the indirect object would be le. And you have to put it at the very beginning of the sentence. Le prometí a Rosa. Like in the previous example, you said les prometí a mis padres. Les, because a mis padres was ellos. And now the conditional of the verb pasarse. Remember, it's a reflexive verb in Spanish and it always needs a reflexive pronoun. So yo me pasaría, tú te pasarías, él, ella se pasaría, nosotros, nosotras nos pasaríamos, vosotros, vosotras os pasaríais, ellos, ellas se pasarían. No te preocupes, te prometo que cuidaré de tus gatos mientras estás de viaje. No te preocupes, don't worry, Te prometo, like in English, we're using the present. Remember, when we are including the promise and the sentence is in the present, the main sentence, we have to use the future in the second sentence in both languages. And don't forget to put que in the middle in Spanish. Cuidaré, cuidar de, to take care of. In English is a phrasal verb, in Spanish is a prepositional one. Tus gatos, your cats, mientras estás de viaje. To be away is usually translated as estar de viaje. So like in English, we are using the simple present in Spanish. And now the future of the verb cuidar in Spanish. Yo cuidaré. Tú cuidarás. Él, ella cuidará. Nosotros, nosotras cuidaremos. Vosotros, vosotras cuidaréis. Ellos, ellas cuidarán. Mi hija me prometió que vendría a casa por Navidad este año. We have two sentences here. And in Spanish, you need a connector. That is, que. The first sentence, like in English, my daughter promised me, we're using the past, in Spanish, the preterite, and the only different thing is the position of the personal pronoun me. We put it before the verb, in English you put it after the verb. The second sentence, since we've used the past, now we're going to use the conditional in both languages. Vendría, that's the conditional of the verb venir in Spanish. Venir a casa, you need a preposition, it's a prepositional verb. In English you would say come home, but in Spanish you need to use a preposition before home, a. And then, por Navidad, for Christmas, este año, this year. Now let's practice the conditional of the irregular verb venir in Spanish. Yo vendría, tú vendrías, él, ella vendría, nosotros, nosotras vendríamos, vosotros, vosotras vendríais, ellos, ellas vendrían. No te prometo nada. I really like this one. This is a sentence that, like in English, you can use when someone asks you to do something or to find out something and you want them to know that you're going to do your best, but you cannot make any promises because you don't want them to feel that they're going to get what they want, because you cannot make that promise. All you can promise is that you're going to do your best. Les prometí que los recogería en el aeropuerto. This time we have two sentences and they are connected in Spanish with the word que. The first sentence, like in English, we are using the past. In English, the simple past. In Spanish, the preterite. Les is the translation of the personal pronoun them in English. About the second sentence, since we've used the past in the previous one, we have to use the conditional in both languages. We are using a phrasal verb in English, pick up, that means recoger in Spanish. And then at the airport, en el aeropuerto. And los would be the translation of the personal pronoun them that goes before the verb, like always in Spanish. And now the conditional of the verb recoger in Spanish. Yo recogería, tú recogerías, él, ella recogería, nosotros, nosotras recogeríamos, vosotros, vosotras recogeríais, ellos, ellas recogerían. Nos lo prometiste. Like in the second sentence of this video, we are talking about a promise that we made in the past. That's why we have to use the preterite in Spanish. About the first word of the sentence in Spanish, the indirect object, it is a translation of the personal pronoun as in English. Te prometo que te lo contaré todo. Once again, we have two sentences that are connected by the word que in Spanish. The first part, we are using the present in both languages, so in the second part, we will have to use the future, contaré, in both languages as well. Everything means todo. You would be the personal pronoun in Spanish, te, and then you have an extra word, lo. If you say te prometo que te contaré todo without using lo, there's something missing. In Spanish, it's not complete. You have to include the personal pronoun lo that makes allusion to todo. I know at first it may not make sense in English, but in Spanish, trust me here, you have to say lo. It's very important. Otherwise, the sentence is incomplete. And for us, it doesn't make sense. I'm going to give you another example. Te prometo que te lo explicaré todo. I promise I will explain to you everything. Once again, you have to include the personal pronoun lo. Okay, the future of the verb contar. To tell in English, yo contaré, tú contarás, él, ella contará, nosotros, nosotras contaremos, vosotros, vosotras contaréis, ellos, ellas contarán. Le prometí que la vería el martes. About this sentence, the only relevant thing is the translation of on Tuesday as el martes, because the rest of the sentence is a word-by-word translation. About the conditional of the verb ver in Spanish. Yo vería, tú verías, él, ella vería, nosotros, nosotras veríamos, vosotros, vosotras veríais, ellos, ellas verían. Te prometo que no volveré tarde. This is a word-by-word translation, so the only relevant thing about this sentence is how to translate the English expression to be late. In this case, I've chosen the verb volver, to come back, but I could have also chosen the verb llegar, to arrive, or regresar, to return. They all mean the same, to be, in this case, late. Llegar, volver, or regresar tarde. Now, the future of the verb volver in Spanish. Yo volveré, tú volverás, él, ella volverá, nosotros, nosotras volveremos, vosotros, vosotras volveréis, ellos, ellas volverán. Penúltima frase. ¿Me prometes que iremos al zoo el fin de semana? Claro que sí. Okay, this time we are doing something different. We are asking someone to make a promise. So things are going to be a little bit different. Let's see how to do that in Spanish. As you can see, we have two sentences that are connected by the word que, like always. Let's pay attention to the first part of the sentence. Me prometes. We are using the present simple, but in English you use the future. About the second part of the sentence, or the second sentence, it is exactly the same. The same verb tense, the same vocabulary. It's a word-by-word translation. The only different thing is the expression, yes, sure, in Spanish, claro que sí. Just one more thing. I translated this weekend as el fin de semana in Spanish, but I should have probably translated it as este fin de semana. Although both mean the same, we know what we're talking about, but just so you know. It's not a big deal, but just in case, the proper translation would be este fin de semana. And if anyone knows any other way of saying this sentence in English, please share that with all of us. You're more than welcome to do so. Thank you very much. Y ahora el futuro del verbo ir en español. Yo iré, tú irás, él, ella irá, nosotros, nosotras iremos, vosotros, vosotras iréis, ellos, ellas irán. Última frase. Te prometo que nunca te mentiré. In Spanish, we have two sentences that are connected by the word que, like usual. Now, let's pay attention to the first sentence or the first part of the sentence. Te prometo. Remember that you have to use the personal pronoun te as an indirect object because in Spanish, you have to say who you're making the promise to. In this case, to you, a ti. And that would turn into te. In the first sentence, we are using the same verb tense in both languages, the present. And in the second sentence, we are also using the same verb tense in both sentences, but this time the verb tense is the future. About the second sentence, the only relevant thing is the translation of the verb mentir into English. In English, to lie is a prepositional verb, but in Spanish, lucky you, it isn't. So the only thing that you have to be careful about is the position of the personal pronoun te before the verb in Spanish, after the verb in English. Y ahora el futuro del verbo mentir en español. Yo mentiré, tú mentirás, él, ella mentirá. Nosotros, nosotras mentiremos. Vosotros, vosotras mentiréis. Ellos, ellas mentirán. And once again, valientes amantes del español, you made it. Thank you very much for watching this video. Remember, like and subscribe. Hasta pronto. Adiós.